Hello there, friend, and welcome back. Today, I'd like to talk about this game, Plants vs. Zombies. Originally developed by PopCap Games, at least this version of the game came out in 2009. I think the original game probably came out when I was in middle school, I'd say. So I would guess 2004 or 5. And I've just been kind of going back and picking up PlayStation 3 games that kind of missed along the way for me, and I came across this game's existence, which I never knew they had Plants vs. Zombies on a physical copy for the PlayStation 3. And the very cool thing about purchasing this game as well is it includes on the disc both Peggle and Peggle Knights, and also a game called Heavy Weapon, which is like a casual side-scrolling shooter game developed by PopCap Games as well. PopCap has grown to be quite the, I guess, large developer of mini games, but I think Plants vs. Zombies went on to be its most popular franchise overall. But I grew up with a PopCap that was more, they made like a next level above internet flash games. They made like casual arcade games. Plants vs. Zombies was the big one. Peggle's another big one. Zuma's Revenge was another big one I played. I don't remember the name of it, but there was also like a fish tank game where you buy fish and then little coins float down from the screen and you click on those, and it's a clicker style game as well. So I grew up with a lot of these games, and so I had recently purchased this and have been playing it and just enjoying these 3 titles over the last couple months. And just I'll talk a little bit about the games. I mostly just wanted to share like how cool it is that I have this in a physical copy, and I don't really see that in a lot of folks' collections, so I would count it as a rarity. And the game doesn't sell too highly yet. I mean, it's probably $30 if you want to get a complete version on eBay. But anyway, not too much happening on the back. Just a little picture of what the landscape looks like when you're playing Plants vs. Zombies. And let's pop it open here. Now, this is a game that features alternative art for the CD. I always love that, and I love that it's a more dark color to kind of offset the yellows present on the box primarily. And then let's open up this manual here. You know, nothing too fancy going on in the manual. Talks a little bit about how to get started and play Plants vs. Zombies. What else is in here? Talks a little bit about, okay, how to build a good defense. There's a very cool co-op mode. I don't know if I'm showing that right on the camera, but you can play co-op on this where somebody's the zombies and someone's the plants. And also a versus mode. Or excuse me, the versus mode is zombies, plants. And then the co-op mode is where you guys can interact together. And then they have some controls on, of course, Peggle. Nothing too crazy here. And a 1-pager for Heavy Weapon as well. So, in black and white, but that's fair. Let me throw this up on the shelf and chat a little bit about it. So if you've never heard of Plants vs. Zombies, we can start there. Plants vs. Zombies is the type of, I would say it's kind of like a tower defense game. So you are given a set landscape on which to build units that will either improve your defense or offense against invading zombies who want to basically get into your house. And so the plants are the saviors, I guess, or they are who you use primarily to kind of achieve such an objective. And it kind of starts with the sunflower, and the sunflower and little drops from the sun help create currency that you can turn in and spend to get zombies, or excuse me, get other plants. And there's a huge variety of plants, anything from like the little pea shooter up to ones that you just pop on the ground and they'll explode and destroy zombies within a lane, or so on and so forth. The game takes place across a series of, I think it's 40 or 50 stages, and every 10 stages is kind of grouped into a certain scene, I guess. So in one of these, it's the daytime, and the zombies are coming across the lawn and so on and so forth. And then it switches to night for the second. And the challenging thing about this chapter now is you're not getting currency from the sun anymore because it's gone. And so you kind of got to switch up the types of units you're using and change your playstyle slightly in order to do well there. There's also like environmental shifters, like now there's fog that rolls in across the lawn to make the zombies harder to see, and it decreases the visibility of your plants to attack. And then you go into a stage where there's now water lanes within the lawn that you have to manage, and you get a new roster of units to fill up and manage the water lanes. Then you go to a rooftop, and I swear there's a fifth one, but I don't exactly remember it off the top of my head. I'll be honest. Throughout, you'll also not just complete these various levels, but there will be certain levels where you have, like, say, pickups, and you have to use specific plants to achieve an objective. That kind of changed the gameplay style a bit as well. But overall, that's more or less what you do. And so I am a huge fan of tower defense games. One of my favorites is Bloons 5. I literally cannot have Bloons on any hardware product I own because it will turn into an addiction, and I'll just play Bloons all day, every day. And so I like going into this genre and just opening it back up. And Plants vs. Zombies was a game from my youth, because I remember when it first came out and I played through it. And so it was fun again to play. I kind of have a couple critiques now revisiting it that weren't so present when I was younger. I think one of those initially is that for all the stages you get a new roster of units, as I was mentioning. But all in all, the units are functionally the same. So for each stage you'll have a unit that will shoot, one bullet, You'll have a unit that will produce some currency. You'll have a unit that is used to hold the zombies at bay and protect you defensively. And so as I was playing through the stages, it kind of felt more like a villain of the week scenario where there's always a bad guy, there's always a hero, but the hero is fundamentally the same, the bad guy is fundamentally the same. And so sitting down on the couch and playing this for too long would start to kind of feel a little repetitive. But the game it's not super long anyway, so it's not all too problematic. Another thing that was kind of grinding my gears a bit, I guess I would say, is that whenever you did start a new level, you had to redesign your roster of units you were going to use, because you can only use, I think it's maybe 7 or 8, and you can expand those slots later as you get special types of currency. But they would always end up blank and empty, and you'd have to go back and reselect all your plants. And then if you had to restart a stage, or wanted to restart a stage because you wanted to improve your approach for that time, it would make you redo it all over again. And so again, just more of a gripe than anything, but it was kind of like, come on, I gotta put all these units in. You know what units I was going to use? I'm just restarting the stage. So that was something else I thought quite a bit about. But overall, there's a couple of other little features I was mentioning. The versus mode is very fun because it's just fun to just drop down and then, 2 players kind of duke it out, sending zombies and building plants back and forth. The co-op works pretty good as well, but the co-op mode doesn't increase difficulty just because you have 2 players, and so I don't know, that one doesn't hit as hard for me as the versus mode. There's a couple other things I don't remember being in the original release for Plants vs. Zombies when I played as a kid, such as a little garden that you can build up as well, which will produce special types of currency you can use to buy special units, as I mentioned, like extra slots, so you have more plants that you can take into the fight and so on and so forth. Overall, I had a lot of fun playing through Plants vs. Zombies. It is a game that I could pick up and just get addicted to for a couple days and fully complete. So I do love the logistics in tower defense type games and the management behind them, and so I had a blast with that. The big game I really wanted to buy this for was Peggle, because the original Peggle, similarly when I was a kid, I played and absolutely loved. I love the kind of, I guess, pachinko style casual arcade game that it happens to be. And here on the PlayStation 3 version, as I mentioned, you get a full expansion called Peggle Nights, which kind of doubles the amount of content, which is really cool. And you can play through all of the levels in a versus mode as well. So if you have a friend you want to sit down on the couch with, hang out and play the game, you can totally do that here. And Peggle is really fun in that you get all of these various boards, and how it works is there's pegs throughout the board, and you have to shoot a ball and hit all the pegs, or hit specific pegs that are red, in order to complete a level. And there's a puzzle aspect to it, so the pegs are sometimes trickier. Other times they're randomized, like when you restart a level, the red pegs are in different places now. And there's, I believe, 10 characters, and each character has a special ability. So if you hit the special ability peg for the next shot, you will have that character's special ability. And then one, you can line up a shot and then trigger it, and the game will reconfigure what it thinks the best shot would be to get the most points and hit the most pegs. Another character, you might shoot the ball and it'll fly straight through any peg as opposed to bouncing on its way down. And so you will employ different tactics and techniques depending on which character you're playing, and you can do that in versus mode as well, which is really fun because you'll get to see how players approach the puzzles and getting the pegs using the characters they feel best work for them. And so it's super excited. So if you've never played Peggle, I think alone that picking this up for that is a really great buy. And then also you get Plants vs. Zombies on top of it. So I think both ways you're kind of winning in those scenarios. There's not too much else to Peggle. It's a pretty straightforward game. There is no special extra content on top of it, as they've included here for Plants vs. Zombies. And but I really enjoy the game as well. So the other item in here that you get is a game called Heavy Weapon, which, as I was mentioning earlier, is a casual side-scrolling tank shooter game. Pretty short if you know how to play the game. Probably takes a couple hours at max. And that's essentially the game. I mean, you're just side-scrolling along in a tank, shooting aerial objects and dodging bullets as they fly down at you, and you'll get all sorts of upgrades to your weapons so that you can say triple shot, or you can do like more continuous streams of shots and so on and so forth. And I don't have much to say on that game as well. I played through it. I didn't quite beat it. I played about an hour of the game, so I think I got about close to halfway through. It is a bit more tongue-in-cheek in its story, where Plants vs. Zombies is more goofy and acknowledging that, like, yeah, this is kind of a silly concept, and we're going to roll with that. Peggle not really having a story and just mostly being a more character piece with the various characters you play through with. Heavy Weapon does have a bit of a story, and it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek satire of like Cold War era propaganda and kind of storytelling stuff, and so there is something engaging there, but the genre is just not as much my thing. So I just didn't end up completing the game. I just mostly tried it out, being that I got it in this package and really just wanted to play some Peggle with a friend at the end of the day. So that's most of what I wanted to discuss when it came to the game. Some other aspects I didn't touch on. I think one thing that PopCap has always been super effective at, and works here in all three of these games, is the tone, as I was mentioning, through the story and kind of the structure of that, but also tone in terms of music, sound effects. I think there's something just really engaging about playing these games, whether it's hearing the cartoonish groans of the zombies, or the orchestral piece of music that's playing after you've hit all the red pegs on a Peggle board, or kind of the epic over-the-top sound effects of Heavy Weapon as well. I really did have a fun time just engaging with the game overall. And if you really wanted to enjoy just a high-definition version of any three of these games, then this title I think really has it, because the games are all in 1080p, and so on a big screen they look super sharp and super clean. And since it's all like sprite work and, you know, art as opposed to like trying to do 3D models and stuff, they really just have a timeless visual representation, something that here, 20 years later after the release of Plants vs. Zombies, I can go back and say, all right, yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It's freaking awesome. So those are the big things. I was a big fan of PopCap growing up. I feel like it was a very casual and enjoyable way to just have tons of various games on my computer that didn't take up a lot of memory, didn't require a lot of memory, and so on and so forth. And so it's kind of cool just to revisit some of these titles, enjoy them, and then also share with you that if you're collecting PlayStation 3 games and you've had an interest in playing these, you can buy this on PS3. I never knew that existed. I thought it was more like a digital store release kind of situation. So it was just a fun game to buy. So, all right, y'all. Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts on these games, and if you grew up with them especially, and you have some fun memories, would love to hear about those and PopCap titles. So, all right, until next time, stay well and take care of yourself, and I'll see you then. All right, bye guys.